The Zodiac Killer is widely regarded as one of the most notorious and elusive serial killers in the history of the United States. He was labeled by many as the America's Jack the Ripper. His crimes, which occurred primarily in the late 1960s and early 1970s in the San Francisco Bay Area, captured the attention of the nation and sparked fear and fascination that persists to this day. The Zodiac Killer's ability to evade capture, coupled with his taunting letters to the media and law enforcement agencies, has solidified his reputation as one of the most enigmatic and mysterious figures in American criminal history. Despite decades of investigations and countless theories about his identity, the Zodiac Killer's true identity remains unknown, contributing to his enduring legacy as one of the most infamous serial killers in the USA. The Zodiac Killer began his reign of terror with a series of chilling attacks that left a lasting impact on the communities of Northern California. Among his earliest victims were high school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, whose lives were tragically cut short on a cold December night in 1968. Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, both teenagers at the time, were looking forward to a night out when they embarked on a date on December 20, 1968. They had planned to attend a Christmas concert but decided to spend some time together first. Little did they know that their evening would end in unspeakable tragedy. The young couple's fateful journey took them to a secluded lover's lane near Lake Herman Road in Benicia, California. It was there, in the quiet darkness of the night, that they encountered the malevolent presence of the Zodiac Killer. Armed with a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, the killer approached Jensen and Faraday's car and unleashed a barrage of gunfire, mercilessly ending their young lives. The discovery of Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday's bodies sent shockwaves through the community and marked the beginning of the Zodiac Killer's reign of terror. Immediately after the bodies of Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday were discovered, law enforcement officers secured the crime scene and conducted a thorough examination. Forensic experts collected physical evidence, including bullet casings, tire tracks, and any other potential clues that could help identify the perpetrator. Investigators interviewed witnesses who may have been in the vicinity of the crime scene on the night of the murders. This included individuals who may have seen Jensen and Faraday before the deaths or heard gunshots in the area. The bullets recovered from the crime scene were subjected to ballistics analysis to determine the type of firearm used in the murders. This analysis helped investigators narrow down the potential weapons and identify any similarities with other unsolved crimes. Despite these efforts, the investigation into the murders ultimately proved fruitless in identifying the killer. The second known victims of the Zodiac Killer were Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau, who were attacked on the night of July 4, 1969, in Vallejo, California. Darlene Ferrin was a 22-year-old waitress, and Michael Mageau was a 19-year-old student. The attack occurred at Blue Rock Springs Park, a popular Lover's Lane area. On that fateful night, Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau were parked at Blue Rock Springs Park when another vehicle pulled up beside them. The driver of the other car, later identified as the Zodiac Killer, approached Ferrin and Mageau's car and opened fire with a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. The barrage of bullets struck both Ferrin and Mageau multiple times. Despite being seriously wounded, Michael Mageau survived the attack, playing dead until the assailant left the scene. Darlene Ferrin, however, tragically succumbed to her injuries and died at the scene. The following day of the shooting, the Zodiac Killer made a chilling phone call to the Vallejo Police Department, taking credit for the attack and providing specific details about the crime scene to establish his credibility. Additionally, the Zodiac threatened to kill schoolchildren on a school bus, adding to the fear surrounding the case. The call included taunts and threats directed at law enforcement. Police traced the call to a phone booth at a gas station at Springs Road and Tuolumne, but couldn't find any clue from there. Their first clue came from the survivor of the shooting, Michael Mageau. After regaining consciousness the next day, Michael Mageau described the Zodiac Killer as a white male adult, approximately 26 to 30 years old, with short, light brown hair, and wearing glasses. He estimated the killer's height to be around 5 feet 8 inches to 6 feet tall and described him as having a stocky build. Mageau's description helped law enforcement create a composite sketch of the suspect, which was circulated to identify the perpetrator. Law enforcement authorities also found another similarity between this shooting and the Lake Herman Road murders. The weapon used in both the shootings was a 9mm pistol. Early August of 1969, the Zodiac Killer sent a letter to 3 Bay Area newspapers: the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald. In the letter, the Zodiac provided further details about the attack on Ferrin and Magot. The letter sent to newspapers was a 3-part cipher, with each part containing a portion of a message allegedly revealing the Zodiac's identity. This letter marked the beginning of the Zodiac's pattern of communication with the media and law enforcement. The cipher, later known as the 408 cipher, became one of the most famous unsolved codes in history and sparked widespread fascination and attempts at decryption. On the afternoon of the fall season on September 27, 1969, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, both students at Pacific Union College, decided to enjoy a leisurely picnic at Lake Berryessa, a scenic reservoir in Napa County, California. At around 5:30 p.m., Hartnell and Shepard were relaxing on a secluded shoreline near the lake, when a man wearing a black executioner-style hood and a bib-like garment approached them. The man was armed with a knife and a gun. The man was none other than the notorious Zodiac Killer. He ordered Hartnell and Shepard to lie face down on the ground. He then proceeded to bind their wrists with pre-cut lengths of plastic clothesline he had brought with him. After ensuring that they were securely restrained, the Zodiac Killer proceeded to stab both victims repeatedly. Despite their grave injuries, Hartnell and Shepard managed to summon help by honking the horn of Hartnell's car. A group of fishermen nearby heard the distress signal and rushed to their aid. Upon discovering the brutalized couple, they immediately contacted law enforcement and medical services. Tragically, Cecilia Shepard succumbed to her injuries 2 days later, on September 29, 1969, while Brian Hartnell survived his injuries and eventually recovered. Law enforcement agencies, including the Napa County Sheriff's Office and the California Highway Patrol, launched an extensive investigation into the Lake Berryessa murder. The crime scene was meticulously processed, and evidence, including the plastic clothesline used to bind the victims, was collected and analyzed. Investigators discovered that the attacker had drawn a cross-circle symbol on Hartnell's car door with a black felt tip pen along with some dates. After a thorough examination, authorities linked the writing with the writing of the letters sent to the newspapers. Shepard gained consciousness and provided a detailed description of the attacker. But as the attacker came in a costume, Shepard was unable to provide any input in making a sketch of the attacker's face. The intense public scrutiny and media coverage surrounding the case heightened the pressure on law enforcement to deliver results. With each new murder or cryptic communication from the Zodiac, expectations for swift resolution escalated, exacerbating the frustration felt by investigators. The Zodiac Killer picked the Presidio Heights, an affluent neighborhood in San Francisco, California, to commit another heinous crime. On the evening of October 11, 1969, cab driver Paul Stine was working his shift in San Francisco. Stine was 29 years old and employed by the Yellow Cab Company. Little did he know that his routine shift would turn into a deadly encounter with one of the most infamous serial killers in American history. At approximately 9:55 p.m., Paul Stine picked up a passenger in the vicinity of Union Square in downtown San Francisco. The passenger requested to be taken to the destination of Washington and Maple Streets in the Presidio Heights neighborhood. Sometime during the cab ride, the passenger shot Paul Stine in the head with a 9mm handgun. After the shooting, the assailant proceeded to rob Stine's body, taking his wallet, keys, and a portion of his bloodstained shirt as souvenirs. The killer then fled the scene on foot. Following the shooting, witnesses observed a man fitting the description of the suspect walking away from the crime scene. Law enforcement agencies were immediately notified, and a massive manhunt ensued in the Presidio Heights area. Police officers and K-9 units searched the neighborhood for any sign of the suspect, but the killer was nowhere to be found. The brazenness of the attack, coupled with the killer's ability to evade capture, heightened public concern and captured national attention. Following the murder of Paul Stine, the Zodiac Killer sent letters to local newspapers, taking credit for the attack, and it also included a torn section of Stein's bloody shirt as proof. In the letter, the Zodiac Killer also made a threat about harming the school children when they are on a school bus. The letters sent by the Zodiac Killer had a profound impact on the investigation and public perception of the case. They generated widespread media attention, instilled fear in the community, and provided tantalizing clues that fueled speculation about the killer's identity. Despite the efforts of law enforcement agencies to track down the sender, the Zodiac's ability to evade capture and continue his reign of terror only added to the sense of unease and mystery surrounding the case. For the rest of 1970, Zodiac corresponded with authorities through letters and press-released greeting cards. These 5 confirmed murders are the ones officially attributed to the Zodiac Killer based on his own claims and evidence linking the crimes together. However, the Zodiac Killer also boasted in his letters to newspapers about committing additional murders, hinting at a much higher body count. An author named Robert Graysmith wrote a book in 1986 called Zodiac, in which Robert proposed that Arthur Lee Allen is the real Zodiac Killer. Another writer duo, Gary L. Stewart and Susan Mustafa, claimed in his book The Most Dangerous Animal of All that Gary Stewart's biological father was the actual Zodiac Killer. There was another writer by the name of Lyndon E. Lafferty who wrote the Zodiac Killer cover-up The Silenced Badge in 1977. And presented the theory that the Zodiac Killer was a law enforcement officer and made an allegation that police went to great lengths to cover it up. Apart from these 3 books, there were more than 30 other books like This Is the Zodiac Speaking, Into the Mind of a Serial Killer, by Michael D. Callagher. The Zodiac Revisited, Volume 1, The Facts of the Case by Michael F. Cole. America's Jack the Ripper, The Crimes and Psychology of the Zodiac Killer, by Soren Roast Korsgaard. The Great Zodiac Killer Hoax of 1986 by Thomas Henry Horan, which all provided different facts about the murders and the suspects. Along with this, the sheer volume of fake Zodiac letters and fake confessions has created confusion within the investigation. Law enforcement agencies have had to sift through an overwhelming number of claims, each purporting to be from the killer. These false leads divert valuable resources away from legitimate investigative efforts. As a result, the case has become a labyrinth of misinformation, making it difficult to separate fact from fiction. FBI issued a statement in 2021 stating that the Zodiac Killer case is open and unsolved.